guys, welcome back to the Chamber of Spoilers, and today we're going to be talking about the supply chain. This is what you subscribed for, right? So for anyone who doesn't know, the supply chain generally refers to how products get from their beginning to where you are. In this case, how wood becomes books that come to your house. The supply chain as a whole has been seriously affected by the pandemic, something that you probably noticed when you couldn't get toilet paper last year. And the reason for that is several-fold. It is a big machine in this world we live in, and no biting. I love you, why can't you behave? And it really can't be summed up to one main problem, but if I was going to sum it up to one main problem, it would be disruption. The supply chain has to be constantly maintained in order to keep goods arriving at their location when they're supposed to be there. Exhibit A, toilet paper is getting used at a pretty consistent rate all over the world all the time. And you have to have a pretty consistent supply of toilet paper because not everyone has a basement full of Costco stuff. So we've experienced shelves being empty over the last year in stores, but what people outside of the industry probably haven't noticed is the publishing industry slowly grinding to a halt, like a train running out of steam. A few little birds have told me that when they're receiving books, they're often in poor shape, and the quality is slipping, which is to be expected. And a number of books, even highly anticipated ones, are having release dates pushed in order to meet the physical demand. So as we go into the holiday season, what does this mean for us, the consumer? How are you gonna get your hands on the latest release for your friends, neighbors, family, and mortal enemies? And this is a pretty pressing issue because we are knocking on the door of the holidays. As everyone knows, Thanksgiving is the stopgap before which you cannot discuss Christmas. So as we get closer and closer to November, the time is a-comin'. So because of my magical powers of observation, I have a couple tips for you, not just as a librarian, but also as someone who is used to buying books on the cheap. So you are in luck because I actually have pretty decent experience hunting for book bargains and also trying to get a hold of stuff that is difficult to find. So here they are. 5 tips to prevent yourself from being a victim of the supply chain and make sure that you can get your friends and family the books they want. I don't think that's gonna fit in the thumbnail. So this one's fairly obvious, but number 1 is independent bookstores. Publishers don't really care who sells books as long as money's ending up in their hands. It all spends the same. Smaller independent bookstores are more likely to have what you want because less people shop at them. Despite the prevailing ethos in the book community of, buy local, shop at your local bookstore, we all know that your aunt isn't buying you a gift card to Sally's Used Books. We've all bought from Amazon before. It's nothing to be ashamed of. There is no ethical consumption under capitalism. At a small independently owned bookstore or even a small chain, you're a lot more likely to get a hold of a human being if you reach out over the phone or via email. So really, it's just a better customer service experience in a lot of ways. Now, tip number 2 is go in person. Wherever it is you're shopping, you're more likely to get a result if you do turn up. I know it's hard to get used to leaving the house again. God knows I have barricaded my door with all the furniture that I possess, but unfortunately, the world is continuing to march on as though this thing still isn't happening. So if you really want your book, you might just have to go to a store. And if you can not have it sent to you in the mail, you're more likely to actually get it on time because, as we are going to talk about, the supply chain isn't just the goods that you're buying, it's also how they're getting to you. The postal system is about to become one of the biggest victims of this supply chain issue. And if you can avoid posting things, I would. You'd be better off. Number 3, used bookstores. I've already mentioned these. Used bookstores are amazing. They're just full of great shit, man. If you're just looking for some new reading material or a present for a friend or an old favorite, a used bookstore can work out perfectly well for your purposes. Buying used isn't just an eco-friendly option, but you're also likely to actually get the book as opposed to if you're trying to get something that has been back ordered for weeks and they just can't get the next shipment in. Used bookstores are an excellent supply of reading material, and while there is the stereotype of them being like musty, gross places, they're really not. Used bookstores are often full of former bestsellers and occasionally unexpected gems. And your local library probably has a used bookshelf that benefits the library, so why not? Used bookstores do have this reputation of being full of like crumbly old paperbacks, but that usually isn't the case. Tip number 4 is fairly obvious, and that's ebooks. Obviously, a lot of work goes into creating ebooks, but they really don't have to be physically shipped. They're not gonna get stuck in a warehouse somewhere. Ebooks have exploded as a huge part of the market share in the last 15 years, and especially big e-tailers like Kindle and Kobo and whatever Barnes & Noble has. If you wanna get your hands on a book right the fuck now, an ebook really is your best bet, and that's kind of why I saved it for almost last, because it's kind of an obvious solution. Amazon does have a really great feature where you can send someone a book as a present, and while obviously they're gonna know how much you spent, which isn't like the most classy thing in the world, it's still really nice. Whenever somebody buys me a book that they think that I'll like because they think I'll like it, it's always been a really lovely thing, even if I don't end up liking the book or it's not a favorite. I like to think of gift giving as a radical act of empathy, right? Like what you're saying is, I saw this thing and I thought of you, or you're saying, I saw this plant and you have a housewarming. So ebooks really are probably your best bet if you have to absolutely have that newly released book on the day it comes out. Now, if you really love physical copies, I can't argue with you there. They are my preference as well. Not to be a book snob, but it is, for me, a more pleasurable reading experience, despite the fact that I cannot argue with the convenience of an e-reader. But a great solution to this problem would be you just buy it on the e-reader. It's like, I don't know, maximum $11 maybe, and then later you can buy the hardcover or the paperback if you really want it. I could probably write a whole treatise on my book buying habits because they are highly specific. I used to just want all the books, but you know, as I got older and as I also got into the library profession, that idea kind of changed with me. And you know, also over the years, you have small living spaces and you can't bring everything with you. So my book collection now is probably the smallest it's ever been, and it could be smaller probably. I'm not like a radical minimalist who's like, I only have 100 books. Of course I have more than 100 books, I think. Probably. I'll count later. But I do think that it is something to keep in mind when you are buying, that when you buy someone a book, you're either saying, I bought this for you and because I really loved it and I think you'll like it too, or you are giving them something they're gonna read once and then never use again. I think that we all really need to think more about which books we buy, because there are a couple really good reasons to buy a book. One, you wanna read it the second it comes out. Two, you really wanna support the author. Or three, you wanna read it and then there's somebody else in your life you wanna give it to who can also read it. Like, I love that. I love when books pass hands, because to me, it's like sharing a story with someone is one of the most intimate ways you can communicate, right? Now, finally, if you've gotten to this point and you're still saying, Rachel, I want a hardcover, I need to hold it in my hot little hand, here's your answer. Order now. If you're seeing this video, order yesterday. It's already too late. Order right the fuck now. Order now. Order yesterday. If you can, the day before that. Any time before tomorrow is the right time to order. And I'm not saying that because I'm part of like a big 5 publishing company and this is like the book deep state. It's because I want you to get your book and you're not likely to. You should definitely order before Thanksgiving. If you order now, it's probably best. A lot of books I think are gonna get pushed back farther if they already haven't been. A lot of fall releases are going to get pushed to winter. I think that maximum we're looking at 3 or 4 months of gridlock in publishing, but it's going to be a hard quarter. In my industry, the end of the fiscal year means a lot of buying because, you know, we've been rationing our book money in case another Michelle Obama book comes out or something. But at the end of the year, you just gotta buy to get that budget down to 0. Because if you don't, then they won't give you a big enough budget next year. And what if Michelle Obama's book comes out then? What are you gonna do? I'm just using Michelle Obama's book as an example because it was out consistently for 3 years and we can never keep a copy on the shelves. So basically the bottom line of tip number 5 is pre-order or buy anything that you want right now. We've talked about how the US Postal Service is gonna have problems come December. Have we talked about it? Quick rant about the US Postal Service. I love the Postal Service. They are so great, but even before the pandemic, the winter season was a busy time for postage because people have always been sending their families gifts. So it's one of the highest shipping volumes of the year during the time when most people want to take time off to be with their families. Plus in the last 2 years, there's the added difficulty of the pandemic, meaning that a lot of people who would be, you know, driving to Ohio aren't. And so they have to send their presents from Milwaukee to Ohio, and that's gonna further clog it up. I just wanted to make this video because a lot of writers on Twitter are talking about how their books are being delayed, or they're concerned about how the rollout for their book is gonna go, given everything. And I totally sympathize with that. Like, of having a book come out is a very big deal. So worrying about your sales because something that you can't possibly control, like a worldwide pandemic, must be really stressful. So I wanted to make kind of an explainer for book lovers who might be a little bit confused as to why this is going on, or people who just might not generally be aware. Whatever you're buying for your niece or your step cousin, now would be the time. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you're interested in any more book related content, leave a question or a comment. I'm happy to make more videos like this. I've been wanting to make a video about how to better use your local library or how you can help your library. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask away. I'm reading the comments, unfortunately, or fortunately if you're nice to me. Anyway, bye!